Kathleen Kennedy has been overseeing the Star Wars franchise for over a decade, but
I'm very thrilled about the project because I think what we are about to create is something very special. And we're in 2024 now. And I think it's about time that we had a woman come forward to shape the story in a galaxy far, far away.
No! I am so tired of the current cycle of entertainment. Sharmeen obaid-chinoy will be leading the charge in the new Rey movies that no one, literally no one, asked for, but this isn't even an issue unique to Star Wars.
But, as the plan goes forward, I think frankly we'll be, eventually I think we're going to reach a time where it's not just listen. It would be amazing to see all of our female characters the way we have seen most, never all male, but primarily male. I think we're getting to the point soon where we have so many great female characters that those are just our heroes, as opposed to when are they all female, all male. It's just the Marvel heroes, more than half of which will be women.
More specifically, I'm talking about our female characters. And whether we want to admit it or not, these are role models. And yet we sexualize, we objectify, we marginalize, and we reduce these female characters to a lot less than they can be. And this is coming from a guy that almost made a really misogynistic game. So I kind of know what I'm talking about. So once this thing failed and I had this awakening, almost exactly at the same time, this Kickstarter happened about this.
There are 3 parts to this cycle. The first one is the push. This is the part where talking heads will change the entire dynamic of their entertainment to make way for some artificial push towards more diversity. This is where terms like the Force is female and the MCU come from. The problem with doing this is that the artificial push for diversity is given more priority than just simply telling great stories. Kathleen Kennedy has been running the show for 12 years since Disney bought Star Wars with their push for the Force is female. What does she have to show for it? A trilogy of sequel movies that had an unrelatable Mary Sue, an identity crisis of directors, and a giant divide in the Star Wars fandom. And then we also have a series of Disney Plus shows where some of them had promise, but then the bag was fumbled with Gina Carano because she had the wrong politics. You also see this on the Marvel side with the strong push for more women in Phase 4 and 5. Why don't people like the MCU now as much as they did in Phase 3? Oh, that's why. And while I've shared my criticism to this guy before on his take about the Starfield pronoun situation, dead game by the way, he did rightfully call out the push in gaming for years.
Even going so far back as, the Nita Sarkeesian, Brianna Wu, and Zoe Quinn were pulling, going so far back as Gamergate, the PBS game show channel that was just a clickbaiting, race-baiting, controversial channel, to be honest.
So then, this leads to the second part of the cycle, the outrage. This is the part where fans show backlash to their favorite properties getting destroyed. I guess you could even call this video a part of that. The videos, the comments, the Twitter posts, and everything in between. Quite a few channels on YouTube made their break when The Last Jedi came out, ripping that movie up into shreds. Every time the push leads to the outrage, a target is put on the backs of the people making these projects.
Let's call them every mean label in the book and also say they send a lot of death threats.
Which leads us to the final part of the cycle, the blame. Remember when people were criticizing Reva from the Kenobi series for the acting and how she was written? Well, guess how that was spun. Media outlets ran cover for the mess that these companies made. These outlets have been doing it since Gamergate, and they're still doing it now. Look at this article by Screen Rant covering for what Sharmeen obaid-chinoy said. The latter section of these comments only furthered the being pinned against Rey's new Jedi Order movie, with many stating that the comments disregard the women who have previously worked on the Star Wars franchise. This argument is taking obaid-chinoy wildly out of context, as the filmmaker is clearly referring to her status as the first woman of color director of a theatrical Star Wars film. The argument is often raised that it should not matter which gender a filmmaker identifies as or what their ethnicity is as long as a good movie is crafted. However, this argument has been lacking concerning Star Wars movies of the past. So let's get this straight. It doesn't matter that a woman who has been the literal president of Lucasfilm for 12 years is running Star Wars. It only matters when it's a woman of color who is a female filmmaker. Here's another article from Screen Rant fact-checking a quote that Sharmeen obaid-chinoy said. This is the context in which 8 years ago, obaid-chinoy joked she likes to make men feel uncomfortable. The full quote can be watched on YouTube, and it's clearly about her work as an activist, campaigning against acid attacks on young girls and honor killings. These documentaries are understandably uncomfortable viewing for men, but that kind of discomfort is the only way to drive change. The quotes are nothing to do with Star Wars, which makes their current use in the fandom rather disappointing. I'm just going to be real with you. This is straight up delusion.
What is the balance of activating a force for change, but also trying to permeate that patriarchy, that power structure? And is that a part of the calculation of your art as well? And what's been the reaction to that?
Oh, absolutely. I like to make men uncomfortable. I enjoy making men uncomfortable. Not you, just not you. Not you.
Point taken, point taken.
But, it is important to be able to look into the eyes of a man and say, I am here, and recognize that. And recognize that I am working to bring something that makes you uncomfortable, and it should make you uncomfortable because you need to change your attitude. And it's only when you're uncomfortable, when you're shifty, when you have to have difficult conversations that you will perhaps look at yourself in the mirror.
Pause. Does this sound like she's joking to you? And the point that the writer made about the quote having nothing to do with Star Wars. Dude, that's not the argument that people are making. The argument being made here is that this is the type of person who is going to be making the next Star Wars movie. Add to that the World Economic Forum Connect, and outside of a Marvel credit for Ms. Marvel, most of her credits are documentaries. And this is a recipe for a hot and explosive disaster.
Oh, beautiful.
So what's the solution to this grand mess? Seems like these companies will never learn until they go broke. But I think there's some light at the end of the tunnel. Disney admitted that they've been royally screwing up with the audience in their SEC filings last year. More and more companies are starting to take a step away from DEI practices, diversity, equity, and inclusion. So the solution? Quit and laugh. Don't reward these companies with your money or for their bad behavior. Reward them with your mockery. Point and laugh at them. And if you want to go the extra mile, create something better than what they've got.